What's up everybody, 40 the Broadway Saiyan here, and welcome back again to my YouTube channel, bringing you guys another video on Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. The topics for this video are going to be on Ramza first of all, because he is going to be getting the debut of his LD and burst weapon, as well as a rework, and we're also going to be touching up on Machina, because Machina is going to get the repeat release of his LD weapon, and they're going to be introducing the LD extension boards, which are part of the character enhancement boards in Global Opera Omnia. Now for those of you that are wondering, 40, are you going to be covering the Divine Summon boards for the upcoming Divine Diabolos event, because it is going to be tied to this particular release. I will be covering that on a separate video, so just wanted to let you guys know. But of course, before we talk about that, if you guys are brand new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. That way you guys are not missing out on future uploads. And if you guys enjoy what you see on this channel, be sure to hit that like button and share this video, as it does help me out. Don't forget to check out all of the fantastic resources out there for Opera Omnia, such as the Dissidia DB, the Dissidia Info, the OO Tracker, the FFOO Tip, the Tonberry Troop, the FFTCC Podcast, and last but not least, all of the rest of the fantastic DFFOO content creators and streamers, and those of you that create those guides, spreadsheets, and visuals just to make the experience for this game that much better. Without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about Ramza and Machina.
魂を引き出す。はあ。虚空を貫け。一気に決める。隙だらけです。トリプルプライク。一気に決める。隙だらけです。 僕は臆病者だ。それでも迷いはしない。
Alright guys, so here we are with my video for Ramza. We're going to be focusing on his rework, his LD and burst, and we're also going to touch up on Machina, because Machina is going to be getting the return of his LD weapon, and he will be getting his LD extension boards as well, so we're going to touch up a little bit on that. But the party comp that I have for this particular video is Beatrix, Machina, and Ramza. I'm using Beatrix for a specific reason, and I'll address that when we move forward in the video. But with Beatrix, let's just go ahead and actually use her LD here, and then when we get to Ramza, we'll start talking about Ramza. Alright, so now we are going to go ahead and talk about Ramza. So for those of you that are not familiar with Ramza, he is a strong support character. He has powerful Brave Battery effects with a majority of his skills. He also has powerful buffs that increases the party's offense, so he increases attack, max Brave, speed, and he also provides powerful Brave region effects to your party. And then he also has an EX ability, which charges up rather quickly, and what this does is he dishes out a really powerful melee Brave plus HP attack, and it also deals damage to the non-target. And then what it also does is it batteries his allies, and he inflicts a really powerful debuff called Enervate, which lowers the attack, defense, and speed of the enemy target. So that's pretty much Ramza in a nutshell. Now when it comes to his rework, we're going to take a look at Shout first. So what Shout does now is it will auto-break enemy targets when he uses it, and then the follow-up HP attack is now going to be dealing 3 Brave hits prior to the HP attack, and he's also going to be having a 150% Brave overflow when he does this. And then second of all, his Galvanize, which is his skill 2, with the rework, it's now also going to heal the party's HP. Before, Ramza never did that, so now he has an option to heal some HP, and then all of the Brave attack plus and plus plus and plus 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 variants, they're all going to be healing the party's HP based on the Brave damage that he deals. So now Ramza has the option to heal HP, and he can also auto break, which is actually quite strong. So he could come really in handy in a pinch, especially if like an enemy raises their Brave to like a huge amount. Just use Shout, he's gonna break them, and then that's that. So we're gonna go ahead and actually just use Shout. We won't be able to see the break effect, but at least we get to see the 3 hits now. So we get 3 hits, which is pretty good. And remember, with Ramza's skill 1 and skill 2, he does have a low action delay, so there's a very high chance of him being able to take his next turn earlier after he uses his skills. With Machina now, so we're going to go straight on to Machina since he is the character taking his turn next. So Machina is a melee damage dealer. He just deals a ton of melee damage, and then his whole gimmick with his LD is that if he has the LD debuff active on a target, he's going to be dealing a follow-up attack every time he deals damage to them. So now with the LD extension boards, this is LD right here, pretty much his stunning slash is now going to be inflicting that debuff before he even deals the brave hits, which is really strong, and then he's going to be dishing out a 3-hit non-elemental melee AoE brave plus AoE HP attack, and then he's going to follow that up again with a 5-hit non-elemental melee AoE brave plus AoE HP attack. It's going to have an increased brave potency, and now the follow-up attack, when he does trigger it, is going to be healing his brave based on his own attack before he dishes out that follow-up attack. So we're going to go ahead and use that LD skill here. So we're going to see 2 HP dumps, which is really, really strong. And now because we've inflicted the debuff, before he even deals the damage, he's going to be triggering that follow-up attack, which is really, really good. And then we're going to go ahead and use his Awakening. Okay, I want to go back into Ramza's turn, so then that way we get to see more of his other skills. So I'm going to just keep using Awakening until we could break this target. Okay. Should be able to break them next turn, so we can get Ramza back in action. Alright, let's just go ahead and use Machina's EX. Very nice. Nice. Okay. So now we're back to Ramza. So with Ramza, what we're going to go ahead and do is use his Galvanize. So remember, his Galvanize now allows him to heal HP, and also the Brave attack variant that he possesses can now also heal HP for the party. So let's go ahead and just do that. And as you can see, we get that nice recovery, which is really cool. Okay. And then with Beatrix, let's just go ahead and use Thunder Slash. Alright, with Machina, let's go into his skill 2. And remember, Machina has that really strong functionality of being able to Brave refund himself after he dishes out HP damage, so he's very self-sufficient, which is really, really good. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and talk about Ramza's LD, because that's going to be one of the main upgrades that he gets that you really want to gun for if you're going to build this character. So, his LD at full limit break, first of all, is going to be raising his own initial Brave and attack, which is really good because Ramza has some really strong Brave regen effects, so increasing his initial Brave is going to be benefiting him. He's going to have access to his LD skill called Iado Storm Winter Arts that has 3 total uses. Now, what this does is he dishes out a 4-hit non-elemental melee AoE Brave plus AoE HP attack that triggers twice. It's going to be dealing that standard increased Brave damage on a single target. It has a 120% Brave overflow. It has split HP damage, and it also delays all targets by 1 turn, and it also Brave heals the party based on the total damage that it deals after the second HP attack. It's also going to auto-launch the targeted enemy, and then it also allows the non-targeted enemy, if there is one present, to be launchable next turn. So pretty much just like how Cloud's finishing touch will allow you to launch the non-targeted enemy after the next turn. And then it's going to be granting him 1 level of Shout and Pep for 8 turns, which are his 2 frame buffs. And remember, you want those buffs to be at 3 stacks as much as possible, so you have the better versions of his Brave attacks and his HP attacks. And then he's going to be granting a special effect called Sunset Leaf Flute for 16 turns. And Sunset Leaf Flute is going to be increasing the party's initial Brave, increasing the party's Brave overflow, and also granting a Brave regen effect to the party. So it's quite good, and you benefit from it for 16 turns. Now, with the LD extension boards, it's going to be increasing the Brave potency. It's also going to be increasing the Brave overflow to 150%, and it's also going to self-Brave heal Ramza based on the HP damage he deals on the first HP attack. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at it here. I'm going to target B. So we'll get the delay off. So it's really strong. You have a launch effect and you have a delay effect rolled into one offensively. And then you benefit from the Sunset Leaf Flute, which is really, really good. And as you can see right there, you know, we have the non-targeted enemy now auto-launchable, which is really, really strong. So we're going to go ahead and use Saint Cloth with Beatrix so we could just battery the party up. Okay, we get the follow-up. Nice. Alright, with Machina, I'm gonna go ahead and just, you know what, let's just use his LD again for fun, why not? Nice, and we get to break now. So actually we'll use Awakening first, and then I'll use his EX. Okay, so when we get to Ramza, we're going to talk about the burst, because I know you guys really want to hear about the burst. Okay. Alright, so with Ramza, we're going to go ahead and go into his burst. So something that I do want to cover is, when do you ideally want to burst? Well, with Ramza, what I like to do is I will either burst when there's 2 stacks of a Shout and Pep or when there's 3. The reason why I say 2 is because, remember, when you use his LD, you're going to be getting his stacks up of Shout and Pep up anyway. So if you're at 2 stacks, you go into the burst and then you start off with the LD, you're going to get those 3 stacks anyway. So as long as you're able to get the 3 stacks in some way, shape, or form, and then you burst, you should be good. So that's generally what I like to do with Ramza. Now, in terms of his finish burst effect, what his finish burst does is he deals his Ultima ability from Final Fantasy Tactics. It's a 15-hit non-elemental melee AoE Brave plus AoE HP attack. It has that increased Brave damage on a single target. It has 100% HP damage dealt to all targets, 50% max Brave damage limit up, 80% max obtainable Brave and HP damage limit up, and then the burst effect is going to be a 5-turn party-wide aura, and what it does is it increases the party's initial max Brave and attack by 5% per buff active. So this is for each buff active on each party member, it increases by 5%, and it also increases the party's Brave damage limit by 2% per buff, and that's a total of 18%. And as far as the initial Brave and max Brave and attack goes, that can go up to 90%, which is crazy. That's a really, really high attack increase alone, not taking into account all of the other buffs that Ramza provides to your party. Now, what I do also want to go over is that while you're in the burst, what is the ideal rotation per se? So I like to go into the LD skill first because I'm going to get the launch off of the target, and then the next turn, I'm going to have the launch again on the non-targeted enemy, assuming that there's 2 enemies present, or 2 or more present. Okay, so now what I like to do after that is I am going to go right into his Enervate, because remember, this also does battery your allies after he dishes out the damage, and this hits pretty hard for an EX ability. Okay, so we get the next launch. Okay. And now next what I like to do is I actually like going into Shout, because the reason why is Shout has 3 Brave hits, and I have seen some examples where people just go right into HP attack plus over and over and over. You can do that, that's perfectly fine, but I go with Shout first because Shout has 3 Brave hits, whereas the HP attack plus has 2. So I'm going to go ahead and use Shout right here, and it's going to auto break target B, as you can see right there. Okay, and then afterwards it's just going to be HP attack plus all the way through. And then we're going to go ahead and use his Ultima, which has a really cool animation. It's really cool that they gave this to him as his finish burst. Boom. All right. So now we have the 5-turn burst effect. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about why I have Beatrix in my party. So team members to use with Ramza, because with Ramza, it's all about that buff management, which can be kind of a hassle when you're using a character that relies on the amount of active buffs per se if you're going to be, getting his burst weapon. So the reason why I run Beatrix is that her buffs don't really interrupt Ramza's, because the generic buffs, first of all, that she gives to your party are an HP regen and a defense up. Ramza does not provide that. Ramza will be increasing your party's initial brave, attack, max brave, and their speed, so Beatrix does not interrupt that. And let's not forget, Beatrix also has her 2 other unique buffs that she gets from her EX ability, as well as using her Thunder Slash. So she's actually a pretty good choice as far as like another buffer that you want to use in terms of like, managing buffs with Ramza. Now, other characters that you could use is, for example, Machina's buffs are all for himself. They are all framed, so he doesn't necessarily interrupt what Ramza is trying to do for your party. Other characters that I can think of that where they have like their own buffs for themselves is like, for example, X-Death does that. Arciella does that, where her framed buffs are for herself, but they also apply an aura to your party. So that's pretty much party members that you want to think of being able to use with Ramza, which is the reason why for this example I am taking Beatrix as a party member, because she also has that functionality where the more buffs you have active across the board, the better her performance is going to be. So we're going to go ahead and use EX, or the EX here, and then I'm going to touch up upon like recommended arts and all that good stuff. There we go. Alright, so as far as recommended artifact passives goes for Ramza, you're going to want to go with 3 times attack plus 108 and 3 times Mightiest Squire boost 2-star. His Mightiest Squire passive from his C50 does activate only if his HP is at max during the last wave, but generally you're going to want to have his HP at max anyway, so it's still a really good artifact passive to farm for, so then that way he also gets the attack increase from that as well. Now, if you're going to be investing in Ramza's High Guard armor, it's the one that raises the party's attack by 5% and also raises the party's brave held and HP damage dealt by 5%. So if you like that armor and you have the Lufenia armor tokens, then up to you. And then for Machina, his High Guard armor, the effect is only for himself, but it's going to be doing that, increasing his brave damage limit by 15%. Now, as far as their call abilities go, I want to touch up on this. So for Ramza, the 2 call abilities, because since we are going to be getting the introduction of LD extension boards with the release of Ramza's LD and Burst, for his regular call, he's going to be using Galvanize, and after you use that, the person that called is going to be getting that attack up and that brave regen. And then afterwards, if you do use his LD call, he's going to use his LD Iato Winterstorm, and pretty much the benefit of that is that you get the auto chase, you get the delay, and then if there's more than one target, the non-target can be auto launch. So there's a lot of really fun things that you could do with Ramza's LD call, especially if you're going to be building that launch team or the Square Enix Airlines team comps that you guys have been seeing really being popularized now in terms of the game. Now, as far as Machina's calls go, so his LD call, he's just going to be dishing out his Stunning Slash, and then the caller that calls him out is going to be getting their attack increased by 40%. So that's pretty much what their call abilities are going to be doing. Now, in terms of the banner, I know you guys want to hear about the banner as well and what my thoughts are on the banner. So there's going to be one banner that's going to be featuring Ramza's Burst and Machina's LD, and it's also going to have the rest of Machina's gear, and it's also going to be refeaturing all of the gear for Maria and Pain. And then the second banner is going to be having Ramza's gear, including his LD, and it's also going to be refeaturing Freya and Ida. Now, in terms of which banner that you're going to be gunning for, it really depends, first of all, on if you had already pulled for Machina's LD back when it first came out. If you did, and you want Ramza's LD at the very least, then you're going to want to go for the banner that has this LD, and then you have a chance of getting Ida, who Ida is actually a fairly decent, melee character. She still hits pretty hard if you build her up. And then it also has Freya, who seems to be a bit outdated at this point, but she does still have her uses. She does have powerful healing effects. She has battery, and she also provides last stand to your party with that buff that she gets from her EX. Now, as far as the other banner goes, if you still want Machina, because Machina is a really powerful melee damage dealing unit, it does have Maria, who Maria is a solid, hybrid healer type of a damage dealer. And then it has Pain, who Pain at this point really has started to age pretty... Her age really is starting to show, but she does have those really strong debuffs that stack, and a really powerful buff that does stack as well. But because of the way that she has to constantly build the stacks just to kind of keep her momentum going, she's really started to show her age. But if you still want Machina's LD, it is going to be present on that banner. So In terms of Ramza as a character, I think he's really strong. I think gunning at least for the LD is worth it in my personal opinion. He is a favorite of mine, so I am going to try to gun for that LD. In terms of the burst effect itself, I think it's really strong, but you got to make sure that if you're going to be bringing Ramza to your party comp as part of a main team party member, you have to really take into account buff management, because if you want to maximize that burst effect and really capitalize on it, you're going to want to take into account, okay, what kind of characters can I bring that won't interrupt what Ramza does, but at the same time I could benefit from what his burst effect does. But the LD for me is pretty much worth it if you have the resources to do so, and if you've been looking forward to this character, he is really, really strong. Same thing for Machina, very, very strong damage dealing unit. Again, it's all about what your resources look like, all about, what your team compositions currently look like at this point. If you find value in these characters, this is what these characters do. Alright guys, well this is going to go ahead and conclude my video for Ramza's debut of his LD burst and also his rework, as well as touching upon what Machina does now with his LD extension boards. Thank you guys again for watching. This is 40 the Broadway Saiyan signing out. Mahal everyone.